All right, happy Friday. Welcome back to Staff Stories. My name is Sarah. I get to be the Young Adults Associate Director here at Calvary Community Church. And today I have with me Stephen Millage, who is our Director of Elementary and Calvary Kids. Thank you, Stephen, for being with us today.
Glad to be here on a Friday, talking a little bit about what has been going on lately.
Yeah, so tell us. Last week, Nate was also sporting his Camp Boost shirt.
Yes.
What are you guys up to?
Yeah, so this is now completing our second week of Camp Boost, and we've had over 50 kids on campus throughout the week for morning and afternoon sessions. So we're halfway through our first unit. And it's just been awesome, to have kids back on campus.
Yeah.
Let me just say, it's cool to have life, to have kids running through the halls, socially distanced, of course, and their masks on and everything. But even the opportunity they have to be outside and to run around and to play board games with each other has just been really cool. And the parents, from the feedback that we received so far, have loved it. And the kids have come running out to their cars, so excited, but have come running back.
Good. I'm glad they're coming back afterwards.
Yeah, right. There's some kids that are like, I want to get ready. I'm ready for Camp Boost in the afternoon, but the parents are like, no, you got to go to school first.
Yes, exactly.
And then you got to get to Camp Boost. So
yeah,
that's been our first week and first 2 weeks, and we're excited for the next unit coming up in October.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I love how you guys are complementing the schedule that kids are having with school. And I know my mom, though she is no longer a parent of an elementary schooler, has loved volunteering in it too. So I've heard a lot of good feedback from our YA volunteers. So
that's honestly probably the best part is the schoolwork help, where a volunteer, your mom, so many of our volunteers here at Calvary, sit down side to side with a student, with an elementary schooler, and there's plexiglass between them, but they can hear based off the sound bouncing off the walls, and they just get to work on their schoolwork with them, or they get to play a card game that helps to understand a little bit more about math, or make origami next to each other, which our volunteers have.
If there are any
origami experts out there, we could really use your help.
Below.
Yeah, I was about to say, click right here for our origami expert edition volunteers.
That's
because
amazing.
They're doing origamis together, and I feel bad because they're like, "Can you help us with these?" And I'm like, "No, not with these figures. No, I can't."
Hey, I believe in you, Steven. There's still time to learn.
No, these delicate little hands. Yeah.
Well, we're excited to see more of what comes from Camp Boost, and I'm really pumped. Yeah, if you guys have questions or more interested, you can go to calvarywestlake.org/Camp Boost, correct?
Or
just Boost?
Yep, Boost.
Awesome.
Just
Boost.
Yep.
So, cool. Well, yeah. Well, let's get to it. Looking at Boost and then looking at your whole quarantine experience, the question I've been asking is, if you can describe what has been COVID season in 3 words, what would they be?
Okay, and you sent us the questions, and my immediate response, without even thinking about it, which is always a dangerous thing to do, was please never again. Please never again.
That's a sentence,
yes,
Steven.
I know, but it's also, but you didn't say those 3 words couldn't be combined.
Okay, we're thinking outside of the box. Nate did this too, so they work together. If you can't tell, this is our creative segment.
That's how we come up with some of our best and brightest ideas.
Okay, well, please never again. I feel like no one would argue that sentiment.
And my quarantine experience wasn't terrible. I feel very blessed to have remained healthy, and then be in a great living situation that was had a combination of a family and a roommate. So I was around enough people, but I think the difficult part of quarantine was just the fact that you felt like isolated, right?
Yes, yeah. Even being surrounded by people.
Yeah. And even when you were around people, so for myself, I'm from the East Coast and born and raised in Florida, and so I've been out here for 6 years. So I've navigated the kind of difficulty that you have in staying in touch with family and friends via a screen, and only getting to see them, maybe twice a year.
Yeah.
And so I've gotten used to, talking to my nieces and nephews, and or talking to my niece and nephew, and then talking to my family and my friends. But to then go from contacting them via screen to then here in your hometown and where you're living, to contacting people that you're close with, everybody that you know, to have to FaceTime your friends that you would normally hang out with, or FaceTime into work and Zoom calls and all that stuff. I think that was the transition that I felt the most, because I was good at keeping in touch with my family and my friends back east, and now all of a sudden it felt like I was having to neglect my family, my friends who were really far away, and have to focus on work and focus on the relationships that are here, which I wanted to do, but was now only via the screen. So that was a difficult thing to do.
It's definitely not as organic, and I think that's what the disconnect can start to creep in, and you don't even realize it.
Right. It's awkward pauses in person can be like you can do those differently than in a screen where you're just like staring straight into somebody's eyeballs and nobody's talking.
You're like, is this a glitch or is this?
You can look away in an awkward pause when you're with somebody. So
it is. I'm curious to see. I love like sociology and psychology, just how we will have to relearn some of those things afterwards. But
oh my gosh,
cool that you're aware of it.
Yes, relearning things.
There's
so have to do that. So I think one of the words that even just popped in my head, aside from please never again, which is a sentence, so we'll come up with separate words,
please.
Was just thinking through kind of my own uncertainty of like what was coming and even what had happened. So like everything was uncertain. So I just didn't know what work was looking like and what relationships were looking like. And,
especially working with kids.
And so exactly. And not wanting to put another Zoom call on families' lives where they're like, all right, normally we push for technology to be really minimized and to spend time with each other and being outside, because living in California, why wouldn't you be outside?
All the time.
But now, in order to connect, we had to like put a screen up, and that was a difficult balance to try and find. So I think just being uncertain, and then I think the one of the tougher challenges was as the schedule was kind of stripped away, what really my life looked like, right?
Yes,
like
that's
what I
so
think
true.
My having so many things to do, really masked my own spiritual journey, and
Absolutely.
So like you're very able to overlook some of the blind spots that you have, and obviously the blind spots you're never going to see them, but even the things you might potentially be aware of in your own self-examination, but to then go, everything's gone from my schedule. I wasn't coaching, not coming into the office, not having our Wednesday night programming, not having our weekend services. So then for all those to be kind of stripped away and filled in with technology and random bits of connection was like a very tough realization. And not one that I enjoyed about realizing about myself.
You're sifting out almost all the junk of your heart, and disruption is one of the only things that can kind of like crack the lid on that. But quarantine's been a mirror. I feel like that's a term I've heard a lot. But it's like, what is your foundation, and what a privileged time to examine that, but through such a hard circumstance.
And I was talking about just kind of the difficulties of working in a church, and it was, and I think this transcends to all jobs, but when you are wanting to like quit, or you're feeling discouraged, or you want to give up, like those are the moments where sometimes you shouldn't, because it's a bad day and you need to push through, because a lot of times innovation or transformation is on the other side of it, and that's a scary thought also as well, because transformation is uncertain. You don't know what it's going to look like.
Absolutely.
And I like to know what's coming, so I don't want to be caught.
Same way. Yes. It's challenged the plan maker in all of us.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Holy cow. Yeah, you can't make plans, and checking off to-do lists is very difficult when you can only clean and reorganize so many times.
You're like, I'm good for the next month.
I just Marie Kondo'd my room. Why do I need to do it again?
I am a minimalist now.
Right? Marie Kondo 2.0. Yeah.
Hey, if it sparked joy, Steve.
Minimalism, that is something now that I want to pursue though as well. And you know me, sneakers. I've looked at my sneakers and thought to myself, should I sell some?
You are hearing a changed man. From March 2020 till now.
Defeated sneakerhead.
If you would like some sneakers, please come to us.
Size 9 only. Size 9 only.
But truly, like, I think you make such a good point of even physically looking around our spaces, looking, like, getting a deeper picture into our hearts. It's like, what am I allowing to take up real estate that isn't actually beneficial to my life? That is like, that circumvents even like the season. That's
even good things, like good books things. I'm looking at on my shelves that really have been very helpful in my life. I'm looking at them and being like, why did they sit on my shelf? They could be doing something else. Right. So there's, you're very right. It is a mirror, and a very crystal clear mirror.
Yes.
Yeah.
High def.
Freshly Windexed.
Yes, freshly Windexed. But I think what we're talking about really does lead so well into our next question, which is all about personal growth. Which, in that, what do you feel like your biggest point of personal growth has been during this strange season?
That is a good question, and I don't know that I've narrowed in on it. I think
sure. Or what you can perceive now, because you may look back and be like, "Oh, that's what it actually
that's what
was."
I learned. Yeah.
But what do you feel like maybe it's like front of mind of like this is a process, or you talked about like reinstilling disciplines at the foundation of your life?
I think it's a personal growth you like think like positive, but it probably was a good negative to have was the stripping away of all that, because I think God is going to use that in my own life for personal growth and for something to change me. And that was a difficult thing to go through, of like what my relationships looked like and what was important, and then to focus on the ones that deserve your focus, and that you should be focusing on, because most often I know for myself, you can focus on the outer ring kind of relationships, because you feel like those end up giving you the most either accolades or affirmation, and then you start to disregard the ones that are in your closest inner circle. And because in the back of your mind, like they're still going to love you. And that's the deepness of that relationship.
There's
the
depth,
beauty of it, right?
And also probably a lot more truth that's spoken in those places.
Yeah, and so those are the ones that you need to continue to invest in, but it's more difficult. And well, not more difficult. No, sorry, that's not the word. More, I guess, more transparency and vulnerability that goes with it.
Absolutely.
Because you can put up a facade for somebody that's on the outer ring, but for somebody that's closer, they're going to know. Types of it.
That's huge, though. I feel I'm in a very similar place. I'm glad you verbalized that, because I couldn't quite put words to it. But it is an examining of our interactions with people and like where we let depth come from, and even like I think you hit on identity too, of like who am I letting me tell who I am? Like who is speaking into my life that I'm giving ear to, or where is like my concern and my attention? And I find that a lot in digital communication.
Oh my gosh.
Who's texting? I'm more quick to answer. Who am I eager to get in touch with? And oftentimes it's not the people that are actually the dearest and most important.
The ones that you would be communicating with in person more often.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's a great point. And with the next question, you kind of like it's a two-sided coin. So if you want to elaborate, or we can move on. But personal growth also, like you said, comes with challenge or disappointment. What do you feel like, just kind of, even if you haven't resolved this in yourself, like what has been one of the biggest disappointments at this time, or biggest challenges that you could still be working through?
I think the biggest challenge, which is just as tough to come to grips with, is my own discipline when it comes to my spiritual health. So in understanding what the spiritual disciplines look like in my own life, and how I've let those waver and fall by the wayside, and how I've seen that now on the back end, because of course hindsight is 20/20, and so
one day
to see dang it, I already got bad vision enough. My contacts, I have worse vision. I went to the doctor, and my vision is still declining.
Oh man,
I know.
It's okay. Maybe 2021.
My lenses are real thick on my glasses. Yes, my contacts. Thank you. No, it's to look back on it and be like, man, how easily did I let just my own time in the Word, my own quiet time, and my own prayer and thought life, how easily did I let those slip by the wayside? And I think that is helpful. It was helpful for me to understand, because in community, those things like are pointed out more quickly when you're around people, where you go, man, I'm quick to anger, I'm quick to do this. But when you're just sitting on a Zoom call, or you're sitting at home working, you're not challenged in that way, and so it doesn't really, like, those things don't come up, and so they can fall by the wayside. And so that was a disappointing thing to discover on the tail end of it, to be like, dang, I could have that. I do feel as if there was a time during quarantine that I wasted, where it wasn't, where I didn't have like an intentional pursuit of something that I could grow in, and yet use that time to just let it be, where things were getting done, but my own personal growth was stunted.
Absolutely.
And shaving away the scales of it, I think, was a good thing, because now I understand it. And also, please, never again. So hopefully we don't have to go through that. Hopefully I don't have to go through that again. Next time,
I don't know. It sounds like you're learning a lot.
Next time, I'm gonna be clued in. I've got everything geared up. So
for next time.
Yeah. Hopefully there's no next time. Oh gosh, that would be good. But no, I think just observing the things that I used to hold so dear in my own, like in my own discipline, to see them fall by the wayside was disappointing and regret that I didn't use that time wisely. Yeah.
So we don't get back on track unless we're aware of our aimlessness, and I think that speaks to everyone. Yeah, exactly. Especially in a place of leadership, because I find too, I'll talk to people in leadership or if you're in ministry, that we get so good at teaching the right things to do that we go home and it's almost this like mock in our minds of like feeling like we did it or we went through the motions, but there's this depletion that happens. But it is the kindness of God to like remind us through the tough seasons. So in a way, it's like maybe that time was wasted, but the lesson is improving you. So that's awesome. And I feel like the Lord has been. I've talked to a lot of people who have kind of come back to that place, and I feel like I've seen God in a new dynamic lens. So I'm wondering for you, like specifically to God or the character of God, like what have you been learning about the Lord Himself?
Yeah. I think the faithfulness of God, that even in the midst of that, and I think that's just one word, but I've learned a lot about who God is because He is so consistent. God is it doesn't waver, and yet how often do I go up and down and ebb and flow, and try to mask it and not let people see that it is happening. But I think just faithfulness of in uncertainty. And in adversity, God is still faithful. And is still going to be okay. Not going to be okay with my failures and my downfalls, my falling short, but is going to accept that it's me, right? And will be there to then hopefully point me in the right direction. But and always does. I've just got to be the one to see it. Got to be the one to start to pursue it.
Still given that choice.
Yeah, right. It's faith without works is dead. So we need to have that drive and that works in our own life. But I think faithfulness has been something that God has continued to show me. Because it's so funny. Like once you drift away from just even really simply like reading your Bible, and then you come back to it. You feel it. Like you feel the presence of God when you're reading those words, no matter what you're reading. It is there, and even if it's just the shortest sentence or the shortest passage, like you still feel it.
You're like, this is alive and active.
Right.
You're like,
what was I doing? Why didn't I pick it up? It was right there. It's on my bookshelf.
Exactly.
It's collecting dust. Even though I'm dusting it, it's still collecting dust. Keeping it clean.
It's amazing.
So faithfulness, I think, would be a good word to one of the characteristics of who God is over the past few months.
Yeah, I love that.
A few months, jeez. Gosh,
I know,
what has it been, like
7 or 8 months. We're week 28 since we've been doing live streams for Calvary, in case you're wondering.
28 days later and 28 weeks later.
128.
We can edit that out. Yeah, we can edit it out. That was a zombie movie. 28 days later.
We've never even seen that movie.
Yeah, no, that was not a great movie.
But faithfulness.
Yeah.
But no, it's so true, and I think like a scripture that the Lord brought to me the other day was just out of Psalm 37, where it talks about like dwelling in the land and befriending faithfulness. And other translations talk about cultivating faithfulness or enjoying faithfulness. But I think it was such a heart check to me to understand like God is faithful, like He's consistent, but we are invited to cultivate faithfulness. Like God's like but it's this encouragement, like there's always more. Like sometimes, like when I feel like I've arrived somewhere, I'm like, I'm so faithful to read my scripture, I'm so faithful to like come to group or whatever. You can just tell even by my like arrogant hands, but like that I think I start to miss out because I feel like there's I've hit the bedrock of it and there's no more. But in these seasons it's cool to say like, wow, like I can actually befriend and like I've grown friendship, you can grow in friendship with the characteristic of God, which is crazy.
And even you said that of like I can do that, I can read my Bible, I can go to my small group, I can do all these things, and yet in the midst of all that, like what does God call us to do but to just sit in His presence, right? Amen, and to just be with Him, and we understand Him so much better to actually sit and contemplate the character of God, and to sit in solitude. And we've been given plenty of that.
Oh yes,
I know I have, but
exactly.
but I also saw on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have solitude, which is so fruitful, but you have isolation, which 100%. The devil uses to get inside my own head, where I start to think like I spiral, and then it goes down a terrible rabbit trail. Right. Dang Pesky
rabbits. But I think like a distinction you make, which I think is so good between is that pendulum swing is when you invite the presence of God. Because in isolation, that's like separation or removal where you're running from something, or like shame often causes isolation. But in solitude, that is the sitting and resting, the being still and knowing that God is God.
You're not alone, right? You're sitting with God in solitude, And
oftentimes he gives us action items, even in his words, to be like, okay, we're in solitude, you could carry that with you, but now go connect with people. And I think that's the beautiful thing of solitude moves us to community, isolation moves us away. So I can go on about that. Rabbit holes. I love rabbits.
Those are good rabbit trails.
Those are good. Yeah, trails, not holes. We're following something.
A badger?
Hey, go Madison.
Wisconsin.
Shout out to my cousins and my dad.
Anyways.
Probably. My dad asked last week actually how to look at a live stream. Sorry, I'm calling you out, Dad, but now you know. So hopefully you're here at 9 a.m. on Friday. So I think we've arrived at our last question.
Have we?
I think we have. Okay, so maybe tying some things together. At this point, say we are hindsight 2020, we're out of the season. COVID is now not a thing of the past, but something that we're working through. We're going back to normalcy. It's more of a marker in our history books, like that happened. But learning from where we are now, not knowing when this is going to end, what are some habits or some rhythms that you would hope to carry forward as we have more opportunity to be busy and to go back into even just old rhythms and habits from this year?
Bread making. No, just kidding. That's not one. Everybody made bread.
I didn't make bread.
It seemed like I saw everybody all of a sudden.
If you have a sourdough starter, please hit your girl up. I would love. Yeah, we'll share between our households.
Pass the sourdough along. No, I didn't make any bread, unfortunately. Did cook, but no bread. No bread to be had. Habits, rhythms, experiences. I think tying back in, it really limited the types of connection points and relationships that I wanted to focus on. I think that's something that I want to continue to cultivate. Even the time that I got to spend at home with my family in Florida and in South Carolina was it was so needed in the midst of all that to go back and be able to spend time with my parents and my sister and brother-in-law and their kids, and to just go, there's those relationships, and even thinking through like my tattoos, there's the things that you have to hold with an open hand. Like there's those things you have to hold with a closed fist, right? And so those relationships I think were brought to light in my own life, and to continue to cultivate those when I wasn't in other times, which is revealing in and of itself. So to go, no, these are important relationships, and these are the ones that I should have an intense focus multiplied by. I mean, even thinking through the formula that Nate has in his office, especially in his office, where focused intensity over time and multiplied by, by God gives actual discipleship. I think that's even just relationship. I think that gives us what we can have. So I think the habits is to stay connected, which is easy for me and my personality to either good solitude, sometimes, or most often isolation.
We'll knock more on your door when we come over.
With the sourdough bread.
Pull you out with bread. We'll make bread.
And I think that's one of the habits I want to continue to cultivate. Rhythm or experience or another habit. What would be something? I don't know. I think it was marked by. The experience was marked by good time spent with people, watching good shows or movies. So, those are good, but I think it wasn't even necessarily about the show or the movie. It was about the time together with people, right?
Yes.
The
early days of Netflix party.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Netflix watch parties. And watching those were fun. But made lemonade.
Really?
Lemonade, it was really
First
nice.
time?
Yep. No, we made it before, but the lemon tree that's right outside of our house.
I do covet that tree.
60 lemons just dropped, just plumb straight onto the ground.
I will make you lemon bars if you please.
Oh man, let's talk about an experience. Butchered zucchini bread. What happened? I had to find an alternative to baking powder, and so I used buttermilk and baking soda. Which dang it, that was supposed to be on Facebook. I should have brought that up.
Well, in case people want to bring you bread, you have to know.
It's gotta be
cassava flour.
Gotta be wheat free. I butchered it, and so it was too liquidy. And so when it was in the oven, it was baking and it was spilling over, and so I had to clean the old oven.
Hey, I feel like you're gonna have some more time.
Got some time. There's always time to bake.
There's always time to bake. Yes, holidays.
Oh, maybe that like the little pieces of just even the simplicity of cooking and baking. Like you actually get to enjoy your food, right? You can't go out too often, right?
And you're not like eating in your car on the way to meeting. Or
I'm not grabbing a quick lunch at work. You're able to like take the time to enjoy the process of it. That was a good experience. Yeah. Okay, let's land on that.
More cooking. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, we hope you too have taken something from this time. But I really think
they're taking nothing from this time.
No, I think there's some good nuggets in there. Yeah. Some good nuggets. Thank you for sitting down with me and sharing. And we will see you guys next Friday for another installation of Staff Stories.
Yep. Happy Friday.